Hi guys, hope you're all doing fine. Today we will discuss about Keynes' theory of employment and his concept of effective demand. Before that, let me just revise you through the classical theory of employment which we have done in earlier classes. As you can see in the slide, these are some of the assumptions made by classicals regarding their theory of employment. The first and foremost assumption according to classical was that they basically were a supply side economist. They believed that production is the most important or core subject area of an economic system. They gave importance to supply rather than demand. So their approach and their theories were mostly supply oriented. The second assumptions regarding the classicals were full employment. They believed in full employment. They believed that all the man-made and natural resources available in the economy can be put into full utilization. Full utilization of resources and full employment of resources is what they believed in. And they believed that this full employment can be achieved through wage price flexibility, which takes us to the third assumption. Third assumption according to classicals were wage price flexibility. Wage price flexibility means if there is any kind of disequilibrium in the economy, classicals believed that wage and price will adjust itself to bring back the equilibrium into the economy. Suppose, for example, if an economy is experiencing unemployment, according to classicals, if an economy is having unemployment, how to solve that? Classicals believe that wages will go down and the unemployment situation will be curbed, whereas when the wage go down and with the existing wage rate, more people can be given jobs. Or suppose if there is a depression or there is a lag in price or any kind of production lag is there or any kind of lag in demand is there, automatically prices will be flexible enough to go up and down, and automatically full equilibrium will be maintained in the economy is what classicals believed in. So they strongly believed, or their main two weapons through which they claimed that full employment is possible is through wage and price flexibility. Another assumption of classical is that they believed in two-sector closed economy. Two-sector in the sense, they believed that there are only two sectors in the economy. One is household sector, another is firm. They strongly disagree to the fact that government has to be added as a sector into the economic system. They believed in laissez-faire policy, which means no governmental intervention is needed. They believe that economic forces have the capacity to bring back the economic system into equilibrium, and there is no need for government to interfere into this system. So they believed in non-government intervention, where there are two sector closed economy where only two subsectors are there, which is household and firm. They excluded government, and even they excluded foreign trade sector, or international trade was not allowed, or rest of the world was not allowed into this system. So that is, equilibrium can be achieved is what they claimed. Another one of the most important classical theory of employment is said to be Say's law of market. Even the slogan goes like this by J.B. Say: supply creates its own demand, which means that there is no need to consider the demand. Producers just have to produce, and demand for that products will be automatically created in the market, is what J.B. Say believed in, or all other classicals believed in. So the moment the production increases, when production increases, which really producers have to employ more and more employers or laborers into it, and more employers are being employed, more wages has to be provided to them, which increases the demand for products which has been produced by these laborers. So they believe that it is going to be the vicious circle is going to be continued, because whatever produced by these laborers will be automatically consumed by them at the end of the day. So supply creates its own demand is what classicals believed in. So the base for classical theory of employment is that focus on supply, increase the production, demand will automatically catch up, is what classicals believed in. Let's move over to Keynes' unemployment theory. Keynes brutally criticized many of the assumptions given by classicals. When classicals started off with telling that they are completely supply oriented approach, Keynes completely denied that and said that unemployment is basically a demand deficient theory. He said that unemployment is mainly caused due to lack of demand in an economy. He attributed unemployment to the deficiency of effective demand. He believed that unemployment happens because if there is a lack of demand, nobody is going to produce products, because producers will not have any urge to produce until and unless there is enough demand. So when there is lack of demand, production will go down. When there is no production, there is no meaning in employing more and more employees, so unemployment will automatically go up. When unemployment goes up, automatically the wage rate will come down. When the wage rate goes down, the demand for the products, because they don't have much wage, they don't have much purchasing power to buy products, automatically the demand will come down. So they believe that it is actually the demand that plays an important role in creating unemployment. Another assumption by Keynes is that he believed that government intervention is really important. He believed in a three sector model. He said that household and firms, and that circle is not going to be complete, government has to be interfering in between. He said that some of the stimulating efforts can only be done by government in the economy, especially it is applicable to developing countries. Developing countries, you cannot actually rely on market forces to bring equilibrium and create welfare in the economy. In such economies, there should be an authority, or there should be a government to interfere and stimulate demand, or stimulate any kind of stimulating efforts has to be done, and which can be only done through government, according to Keynes. Another assumption by Keynes, which completely differs from that of classical, is that classicals basically believe that there is no overproduction or there is full employment in the economy, which Keynes disagreed. Keynes said that there will be glut. Glut means overproduction. There will be overproduction according to Keynes. When he says that he meant that whatever wages is being made available to the workers, you cannot expect that to be spent wholly by the workers. Workers will not spend their whole wages which is being given to them. A part of it will be saved, or a part of it will be invested. If such saving and investment is happening, that means a circular flow of income is broke. So whatever produced will not be automatically demanded, because a part of what is produced remain not sold. For example, suppose a commodity is being produced, a commodity worth 1000 rupees is being produced, and people are given wage like per day 100 rupee wage are being given to them. So you cannot expect the workers to spend that whole 100 rupee a day. At least 10 rupee from that will be saved or invested. But you have produced per person 100 rupee worth products is what being available in the economy. So if a person is not spending that 100 and he's spending less than 100 in the economy, that means there has been some part of the production which is not being sold or demanded. So automatically there will be overproduction in the economy, according to Keynes. Another thing which Keynes completely disagreed to that of classicals were that of their notion of wage price flexibility. Keynes believed that this wage price flexibility is not possible, especially with the presence of trade unions. It is very difficult to have a downward spiral of wages, because workers will not accept a wage cut easily. Even prices also act sticky at times, especially downward trend is very tough to make. So even if Keynes admit that, okay, let's see if wage and price is flexible, as classicals claim, what happens is that if unemployment is there, and as classicals claim wages are going down, if wages are going down, that means people doesn't have enough money to buy products. that means their demand will automatically come down. When there is no demand, why would producers produce something? There will not be an urge for producers to produce. So if they are not producing anything, why should they employ more laborers? So they won't be employing anyone. So there will be unemployment. So unemployment will create more unemployment is what Keynes believed. Keynes strongly believed that this would have been a major reason for Great Depression of 1930s. So this slide we actually saw what are the different assumptions of Keynes and how he is different from that of his classical theory of employment. Next, we will see some of the assumptions. We will extend this. Keynes believed that, or Keynes confises his analysis into a short-term period. Short-term period, he believed that classicals argued for a long-term period. Every analysis of them were related to longer period of time, but Keynes said that in long run we are all dead. Next assumption by Keynes is that he believed in a perfect competition in the market. Next, he also believed in a closed economy, but with government intervention, excluding foreign trade. And his analysis were macroeconomic analysis. He always dealt every economic force in aggregate manner or in totality, whereas classicals always made their analysis on the basis of micro concepts. Micro analysis is what classicals believed in, macroeconomic analysis is what Keynes believed in. He assumes operation of law of diminishing returns or increasing cost. He even assumes that labor has money illusion. He said that labor always will be having a money illusion, which means that they believe that even if wages are going up, even though it's just a nominal wage increase, people believe that really their wage has gone up. So it's a kind of money illusion which is created among the people. Even though there has been no increase in the real wage, the wage increase is just being nominal, people believe that there had a hike in wage. So these are certain assumptions for Keynes. With that base, let's move over to the concept of effective demand. What exactly is effective demand? By effective demand, Keynes meant that total demand for goods and services in an economy at various levels of employment. According to Keynes, effective demand is that at different level of employment, how much of goods and services we are demanding. That is what Keynes said effective demand is all about. For example, if suppose there are 100 laborers are being employed and they demand goods and services, maybe 100 units of goods and services are being demanded by this 100 laborers. Suppose there is an increase in employment and now 200 laborers are being employed, and that means there will be an equal increase in their consumption, which basically means that at different level of employment, whether it be 100, whether it be 200 labor being employed, the level of goods and services we demand at different level of employment is shown through effective demand. Effective demand basically means the sum total of demand, where it also includes investment expenditure. It just does not include consumption expenditure, which just include goods and services. It also includes investment expenditure. In other words, sum of consumption expenditure and investment expenditure constitute effective demand in a two-sector economy. Mark that two-sector economy because we in an assumption said that Keynes don't believe or assume a two-sector model. He believed in three-sector. So which elaborate the effective demand into consumption expenditure plus investment expenditure plus governmental expenditure. So basically, effective demand means demand for goods and services by household, demand for goods and services by firms, plus demand for goods and services by government. In total, effective demand is consumption expenditure plus investment expenditure plus government expenditure. Effective demand is like a different level of employment, what is the level of goods and services we demand is what effective demand means according to Keynes. Now, let me explain effective demand with the help of a graph. I want you to closely observe the graph where the x-axis shows the volume of employment and y-axis shows the receipts. There are different curves which has been shown in the graph where you can see that in the x-axis ON1 is one level of employment, ONE is another level of employment, ONF is considered to be full employment level. Suppose we are considering an economy with 10 people, or there is number of people who has to be employed, or total supply of labor is 10 in that economy. We have 10 people to be employed in this economic system, and that is ONF. ONF is full employment where the whole 10 people has to be employed. Now we can go to the aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve. I hope you can see the aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve. Let's start with aggregate supply curve, AS. It originates from 0, and you can see that aggregate supply curve is positive in nature initially, and then it became vertical to the y-axis. It starts from the origin, it crosses through C and it goes up, and then it becomes vertical to the y-axis. So aggregate supply curve is positive initially, and then it becomes perfectly inelastic, because once they reach full employment, it cannot increase after that. It can be seen that as the level of employment increases, output also increases. That's what aggregate supply is positive means. Aggregate supply curve is positive because as the employment increases, output also increases. So aggregate supply curve is upward sloping only up to a particular level. After that, you can see that aggregate supply is actually vertical to the y-axis, or it is perfectly inelastic. That is the point where the economy has reached full employment, where all the people are being employed into the economy, all the resources are being employed into the economy. After that point, aggregate supply becomes perfectly inelastic. Aggregate supply curve can also be called as cost curve if we take it from the point of view of a producer, because aggregate supply curve is where, like, it's a supply, it shows the supply side of a producer. It involves the cost of production, so you can even call it as cost curve of producer. Next, let's move over to the aggregate demand curve, which is AD. I'm not talking about the dotted AD1, I'm talking about the bold line AD. AD, which is aggregate demand curve, which can also be considered as revenue curve if we consider it from part of producer. AD curve, you can see that it is downward sloping, which means as more and more people are employed and they get more wages, they demand more. AD curve is downward sloping because you can see that in the x-axis, the moment the level of employment increases from ON1 to ON2 and then ONF, as it increases, AD curves keeps on curving downward, which means that more employment, that means more people are being employed, more wages will be given to them. With that more wage, they will be able to demand more commodities. So AD curve basically is downward sloping. AS curve is positive till a point, after that it's vertical. AS curve is down, AD curve is downward sloping. I hope it's clear. Then let's move over to the point R. I hope you can see the point R on AD curve. At that point, you can see that ON1 level of employment is happening. For example, 3 people are being employed at ON1. You can see that AD curve R lies on the AD curve. AD curve is basically revenue curve, and you can see that there is a point called C which lies on AS curve, which means that revenue is greater than cost. RC is the level of profit a producer can earn if he is employing ON level of people into this economic system. So R represents revenue. You can see that aggregate demand curve lies above aggregate supply curve. That means revenue is lying above the cost. That means producer is earning more than what he is incurring. RC is the level of profit which a producer earns. So it is profitable for him to employ more people. So he adds up more people and increases production. He keep on adding his laborers till he reached the point ONE. He employs 8 people there. As you can see in the explanation, till ONE, 8 people are being employed. At that stage, you can see that aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve is intersecting at point E. At ONE level of employment, where 8 people are being employed out of 10, 8 people are being employed in the economic system, where you can even see that would reach to an equilibrium point where aggregate demand and aggregate supply is meeting at point E. That is what Keynes called as effective demand. He said that the point where aggregate demand and aggregate supply intersect with each other, there is effective demand. That is the point where he termed that equilibrium point as effective demand. But he observed that there are totally 10 people in the economy, and ONE level of employment where we have already reached the equilibrium, it's just employing 8 people. What happens to the rest 2 of them? Keynes says that those 2 are unemployed, which the economic system is not reaching ONF. You can see that ONF is the full employment level where we are employing the whole 10 people which are available in the economy. But we have already achieved equilibrium at ONE level. What happens to them? That gap between NE and NF is termed as unemployment. Those unemployment are termed as involuntary unemployment according to Keynes. It is involuntary unemployment because Keynes believed that those 2 of them are not really like voluntarily unemployed. They are really willing to work at the existing wage rate, but they simply cannot find the job. So he believed that there will be some amount of unemployment always in the economy. That is what Keynes believed. So out of the 10, when equilibrium has already been reached or effective demand point where aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, only 8 of them is being employed. That means there is still unemployment in the economy. How to come out of this unemployment situation? According to Keynes, the only way by which a system can come out of this involuntary unemployment situation and make all these 10 people get employed into the economy is by increasing the demand. He said that government has to stimulate demand. That is where the role of government comes in. He believed that government has a very strong role to play in such situation of unemployment. He believed that government has to put in more effort through public expenditure or some other way. They have to improve the aggregate demand. Then only the whole stock or supply of labor can be utilized. With that, we move over to the second part of the graph. As you can see, there has been another aggregate demand curve, which is the dotted one, that is AD1. So according to Keynes, aggregate demand has increased from AD to AD1. AD to AD1, and the new equilibrium point is E1, where AD dash or AD1 and AS is intersecting, and ONF level of employment is there. I repeat, according to Keynes, only one way by which we can increase the employment rate or curb this unemployment situation is to stimulate demand. And government is doing that. Government increased the demand. Now the demand curve shifted from AD to AD1. The dotted line shows the new demand curve, that is AD1. And that AD1 is intersecting the existing old aggregate supply curve at E1. At E1 you can see the new equilibrium point or new effective demand point where there is full employment. The whole 10 people who are available in the economy for the employment is fully being employed. Where that NENF gap has been curbed, now the level of employment is ONF. And the equilibrium point is E1, that is called effective demand, where AD1 is equal to AS. The graph is being explained in these two slides. I hope you can go through whatever I have just explained has been repeated in these slides. This unemployment can be removed by stimulating aggregate demand by government. The new equilibrium point is ONF, is the level of full employment. So thus Keynes believed that unemployment happens because of lack of demand. If there is lack of demand, there will be unemployment. How to curb that unemployment? Increase the demand, which can be only done through government's public expenditure. In some or the other way, money has to be instilled into the economy. Public expenditure, especially in countries like India, developing countries, where government's role is way much more than that of developed nations, where the only way by which we can curb the unemployment is to increase the demand, to stimulate the demand. When we stimulate the demand, automatically there will be more demand, there will be more production. For more production, you have to take more people, you have to employ more people. The more you employ, more wages has to be given, which will even increase more demand, and this continues. So thus we are coming to the conclusion of the topic. Keynes' theory of unemployment. Keynes believed that unemployment happens because of deficiency of demand, and this situation of unemployment can be only curbed or solved by stimulating aggregate demand, which can be only done by government.